Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lipford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we tell you all about a very big trending subject on todayshomeowner.com. It's all about these front-loading washing machines and all of the problem with the mold, the mildew, the odors, all of that. It's unbelievable. We had almost 200 comments on this particular thread. We'll share with you a few of those that commented on solutions for that, and we'll chime in with some of our solutions. Joe, why didn't the manufacturer figure this out?
I think they pushed it onto the market and didn't realize this was a problem, and it was an original design flaw, and they have no idea how to fix it, unfortunately. We're also going to talk to a homeowner who has a rather unique problem. He has a pink cast iron tub, and he wants to get it out of the bathroom, and he can't figure out how. So we're going to tell him how to do that, and here's a hint. It doesn't come out easily, nor does it come out in one piece.
It was kind of funny with the way he was saying, I keep waiting for pink tubs to come back into style.
I think he said he waited 30 years. He's still waiting.
I think he's given up on that particular one. Hey, this is a great time of the year to really get organized. And, of course, we all know that starts with purging some of those valuables that we have. Well, they may not be so valuable after all. We have an organizing expert here. Kandy Negus is going to help us kind of point us in the right direction and maybe nudge us a little bit to get started, because it's always so gratifying once you get that closet organized or the garage or wherever that problem area is in your home. We'll give you some great tips on how you can be a little more organized in 2020.
Some of the most challenging problems around the house are little annoying squeaks that you hear every time you open and close a door. I've got a simple solution how to solve that problem once and for all.
All right, and we certainly appreciate you spending some time with us here on our podcast. You see, we got a lot to share with you. Let's get started. Joe, you got any big plans for the new year? Got any thoughts of things that you're definitely going to do this year?
I'm definitely going to finish those projects I thought I was going to finish last year. So I'm definitely going to do that. Well, you're in a similar situation. Oh, you're laughing about. You were supposed to be in your house at Christmas. Now you're saying I'll be in the house at Christmas, but maybe next Christmas.
That's right. I didn't say what year that Christmas was going to happen and all. And but I've got a lot of purging to do. We're going to be talking to an expert, Kandy Negus, in just a few minutes about some ideas. We, sometimes it's like the forest and the trees, that you're living there and around all these things that you've had for years, and, I'm going to get to using that. I'm going to get to using that. So having someone else be able to tell us what to do on that, point us in the right directions would be a good thing. I will
say my wife Marla's great at purging. She just doesn't purge her stuff. She purges my stuff. That's the only difference.
That's easier, actually, so.
Yeah, getting rid of other people's stuff. I don't even have to hardly look at it.
Okay, let's go to Florida here. Keith is on the line right now with a question about a cast iron tub. Keith, welcome to the show.
Hey, Danny and Joe, thanks for taking my call.
Hey,
of course.
Our pleasure. What's your plans for the big cast iron heavy tub?
Well, the house was built in the 60s, and we've owned it since the 80s. And the guest bathroom has it's pink built-in cast iron bathtub that we want to remove. It's getting rusty. My wife hates it, and it's pink, so it's got to go.
The only thing you had to say is my wife hates it. It doesn't matter.
There you go.
Anything else doesn't matter.
Well, maybe I should have my wife talk to Marla. This can help me purge some stuff out. I mean, I've waited 30 years for pink to come back in style, but it hasn't happened.
No,
it's got to go.
I don't think that's on the horizon there as far as another trend coming in on that. Well, I'll tell you, I have removed many tubs like this, and occasionally you'll find someone that wants a tub like this, for I don't know. I'll tell you, a lot of the farmers love it because, they can use it for a watering trough and things like that, even though they would really rather have a metal one that they can carry around fairly easy. But to get it out of there, really the majority of the time that we've done that, we've basically just broken it up into manageable pieces, which I've just made that sound so easy, but it is not.
I like the way he said "we."
Yeah.
I mean, looking at this thing, I suspect that it might be made from repurposed battleship armor, so I'm really not sure how to get this thing out.
Well, I'll tell you what, get you some good eye protection, gloves, and a good sledgehammer, and right on the very front side of it, now be careful now, things are going to be flying everywhere, so
I would cover it with a quilted pad.
Very good idea.
Swinging.
A good idea. And then basically you just swing and you hit it and it'll crack. And then you just
anywhere, or do I have to find like a sweet spot for this thing?
For some reason, I always do it for the dramatic effect, right in the very front of it. Good.
The front middle.
Right. Just
like swinging a golf club.
A good, strong golf swing. And right in the middle of it, because it's hollow behind that, so that can get it breaking. And then you just continue breaking that. And because, it's very hard to get it out like it is without tearing out a lot of walls. So doing this makes it manageable. It also, makes it manageable from the standpoint of weight, easier to carry in there. And but you can do it in somewhat of a controlled fashion. Have your wheelbarrow right there that you can throw everything in, and then you can clean the studs and so forth and be ready to install the new, lighter, easier to manage tub when you move forward on that.
Right. Okay. All right.
Keith, the only other suggestion I was going to make is, as Danny said, you start on the outside wall of the tub, right in the middle, swing it like a golf club, but really get out one of those quilted moving pads and cover it to keep all that shrapnel from flying all over the place. And you hit it once or twice, it'll crack vertically, then hit the very top edge of it. That'll crack. Okay. Sometimes that'll crack down the inside wall. If it doesn't, then you'd repeat. What you're doing is just cracking it up and over and across the floor, and then you do the same thing on the back wall, and you're trying to do is crack it in two big pieces. It'll come out in about 20 pieces, but that's the way to do it, because there's no way to get it out easily in one.
Well, I was thinking of a rocket-propelled grenade might work.
Yeah, that would remove the tub, the shower, the sink,
part
the window.
Of the home. Yeah. Well, it is great therapy.
Just be careful doing it.
It's great therapy if you have any anger management issues. It's a great way for you to work that out. So.
All right. Well, and if I do get it out in one piece, I'll call some farmers.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That's the way to do it. Well, Keith, best of luck to you on that project. Happy New Year to you, and best of luck to you.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
All righty. Absolutely. Yeah. That's actually, I should have told him that we had that online where Chelsea and I actually broke that tub up in her house. And again, I hit it a few times. She hit it a few times. Worked out pretty well.
Well, the thing that people don't realize, it seems indestructible, but it's so brittle. If you hit it, it's going to crack.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You might be surprised. It'll crack,
And right now, it's time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This time of the year, batteries are a hot commodity. Christmas is over, and you and someone in your family likely got a present with that dreaded warning label. Batteries not included. It's time to get batteries that will last. That's the idea behind Duracell's new Optimum Alkaline Battery. They have a new cathode system that will give your devices extra life, like remotes that run longer, or extra power like brighter flashlights. Plus, no more loose batteries. These are packaged with a new slider pack and a resealable storage tray. So for more information on the new Duracell Optimum Alkaline Battery, log on to HomeDepot.com. Joe, that reminds me of another thing that's probably created a lot of frustration over this last week is when you're opening a present and there it is in that plastic molded wrap.
Oh, I know.
And then all of a sudden, you try this, you try that, and you end up going out and getting your recip saw to cut the darn box open. That shrink
those
wrap
clamshell packaging.
So what kind of person creates these type of things? Well, I know one of those, actually.
Really?
Tiffany Burtonette, our Vice President Director of Sales, her husband is a packaging engineer.
So he's the person.
He's the one. Now, can you imagine being at a party and something like that? And hey, what do you do? What do you do for a living? Well, I'm a packaging engineer. Well, what kind of things you do. Well, he just left a battery company in doing all of their battery packaging, and now he's with a company in Bloomingdale, Indiana, working with another company, still doing the same torturous task of making it miserable for the consumer to open up your toys on Christmas morning.
Yeah. So he's finally figured out a way to prevent all battery packages from being opened easily.
Yes.
So now he's moved on to another.
So he's moved on to another. And I'm not sure what who he's tormenting in right now, but anyway, so you always wondered who that person was. Well, I know them, and so
hope he doesn't get a job at Budweiser.
Yeah,
no way to get the beer out of the six pack.
That could be pretty serious. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got some great. I want to read something else here. This is pretty neat. Some of the things that we've got, and these are different random tips that we've gotten from homeowners on the Today's Homeowner hotline at 800-946-4420, or we get a lot of emails, of course, todayshomeowner.com/ask. This is from Fabio Ross on todayshomeowner.com. The first and easiest way to evaluate your roof's condition is to grab a bright flashlight and head up into your attic. Make sure you grab a flashlight with a really bright beam so that you don't miss any damage, and always be sure to be safe as you perform this type of inspection. Once you have performed an interior roof check, it's also a good idea to take a look at your roof from the outside. Interior roof checks are essential because they help you identify roof damage that's already reached the interior of your roofing structure. That's a great idea. Do be careful when you're in the attic as far as stepping through the ceiling or anything along those lines. But he's right, and to be able to look at those areas that are prone to leaks around your chimneys, around your valleys, any of these areas, you might find a leak in there that you didn't even realize, and you might be able to head it off before it starts showing up inside your house, which is where it really gets expensive. I think it's a pretty good tip from one of our listeners.
Yeah, because we often say the importance of inspecting your roof using binoculars from the outside, but I don't think we ever mentioned the importance of going inside. And the other thing you'll find is if there's any water damage, you'll see it. I mean, there'll be, even if it's not wet, you'll see water stains. And if there's any rot going on with the underside of the roof sheathing, you'll see that as well. So that's a great tip from Fabio.
And also, when you're up there, if it's a bright sunny day, you also can turn your light off. Let your eyes kind of adjust to the darkness and look around these same areas. And if you're seeing some daylight here and there, well, rain can get right in there. So another way of doing that. Here's another one from todayshomeowner.com that someone sent in at todayshomeowner.com/ask. Sean says, in order to boost the efficiency of your water heater, keep your water heater clean, repair all leaks, and lower the temperature. A lot of the water heaters automatically are set, I believe, at 130, and we recommend bringing that down to 120 or 115. I know a lot of homeowners have done that very thing. They're saving a significant amount of money on their power bill or their gas bill, and nobody ever notices that it's not making the water where you're going to run out all the time. Oftentimes you're heating more water than you need. That's certainly a great idea, just to turn that back. A very easy thing to do.
Yeah, you'll notice the temperature difference the first day or two, but after that, you won't even hardly notice it. If you're used to taking a shower in 120-degree water, suddenly it's 115. You might notice it the first day, but not much after that.
Hey, a lot of times we monitor our website all the time, and we'll see certain trending articles. And boy, here's one that really blew up on todayshomeowner.com. How to remove mold and mildew from front-loading washers and dryers. We've got we have 179 comments on this one subject, so we thought we would touch on it a little bit because the front-loader washing machines, we hear about it all the time. I've got one at my house, and I know exactly what they're talking about. So if you're having trouble with the smell in your front loading washing machine, here's how to get it smelling fresh again. Clean the gaskets. Use a rag or towel to clean the rubber door gasket on a front loading washer with either hot soapy water or a little bit of mildew cleaner, and make sure to wipe underneath and around it as well. Be prepared for a little slime and gunk and possibly a stray sock or two. That might happen as well. Also, clean the dispensers, removing the detergent dispensers and giving them a good scrubbing. If they don't come out all the way, clean them the very best you can, and you can use a bottle or pipe cleaner to reach back into all of the crevices. And maybe run a cleaning cycle. Next, run an empty wash cycle on the longest, hottest water setting, and that way you can add one of the following directly to the wash tub: a cup of bleach, a cup of baking soda, a cup of dishwasher detergent, a commercial residue busting washer cleaner such as a Fresh, or they even have one called Smelly Washer, and that's
an appropriately named product.
Putting it out there, so that'll allow you to really kind of clean this up. But there's more information waiting on you at todayshomeowner.com on other tips and ways that you can keep your front-loading washer and dryer from kind of being a smelly mess. And one of the things that we've started doing is leave, and you hate to do this, but to actually leave the doors open a little bit on each one to allow the natural drying of the air conditioning and heating in the home to keep mold and mildew from forming. But here's a couple of quick comments from that top loading washer article. And again, you can go to todayshomeowner.com and put in cleaning front loading washer, and you'll see all the close to 200 comments about this. But Marilyn says, I appreciate your information. My family had accused me of letting the clothes sit too long in my front loading Amana washer because they had such a bad odor. Now I understand it was actually a mold problem. But to address the problem, before I read this today, I started using a quarter cup of baking soda and a half a cup of white vinegar with my detergent in each load. Now the clothes are fresh as can be. I am running a 75-minute hot water cycle with bleach right now, though, because I may still have a mold problem and not know it, and I'm trying to wipe it out. That's such a shame that we have to go through such extremes. But just to repeat that, what Marilyn has used successfully: a quarter cup of baking soda and a half a cup of white vinegar with each load. So, you can't go wrong with white vinegar and baking soda. So there's one way of doing that. And here's one more. David says, I have a top loading washer that periodically has greenish leaf-like debris in the washer. The washer appears to be on a properly installed drain system. We do use well water. Of course, we're not putting clothes in the washer that has leaves or grass on the clothes before the wash cycle begins. Any ideas as to what causes this greenish leaf-like debris and what will help eliminate this problem? He may be leaving a few dollar bills in his pocket and they're getting shredded along the way. I don't know there,
that's it.
David. But what do you think on that, Joe? I mean, I've heard things that are more black, like some of the mold and mildew that might be getting loose. But he's really specifying this is green.
Yeah, well, I've heard of, as you said, brown and black flakes ending up in a washing machine. But if this is green, might be the same problem. And it's from an excess buildup of soap. Might be using too much detergent. And what happens is it gets trapped inside the washing machine. There's a outer plastic drum that holds the water and an inner metal drum that holds the clothes. And in between those two drums, there's a space, and the excess soap can get built up in there. And at some point, the accumulation starts breaking up and coming out in these little flakes. And again, I've only seen them as brownish or blackish, but it might be the same thing. So what's he need to do? That's the question, right? Well, you could try, he might have to call in a repairman, but they can scrub the space in between the outer and inner tub and then run a cycle again with vinegar and baking soda. And that will clear it. Now, it'll come back if you continue to use too much soap. So I would use less soap and maybe buy a different brand of soap and see if that will eventually solve the problem.
But I had an appliance guy tell me that same thing one time, is that never, where it says maximum height, excuse me, never ever fill it up to that point for the very
on
reason
the detergent cup
that you're saying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And never fill it up to that point because of just what you said. So you might think about that if you're having any little problem with that, or maybe the soap just doesn't seem to be getting out of the wash cycle. Just reduce it a little bit. You'll save a little money and you won't have that problem. Hope everything's going well. And, you sit around and you think about, had a little time around the holidays there, and you think about things that you want to do in the new year, and decluttering, making your life a little more organized is something I think everybody appreciates. I'll tell you, when even something as simple as tackling a closet, and you pull everything out. Oh, this is only going to take a few minutes, and you pull everything out, and suddenly 3 hours later, you're still tweaking and doing that. But how gratifying is that? And this is a perfect time of the year to do that. Right now, join us is Kandy Negus, who is an expert organizer. Her company is orderyourspaces.com. Kandy, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so people, how do you point them in the right direction? You're dealing with homeowners all the time, and of course, you have that resistance to part with anything. So how do you get them going in the right direction?
Well, Danny, people like to use the question of, well, if you haven't used it in the last year, you need to get rid of it. Can I just tell you, that kind of just really doesn't work with homeowners. We have to be a little more diagnostic. Mm-hmm. And we have to kind of hold their hand, and we have to ask more specific questions like, hey, I know your daughter-in-law gave you that 5 years ago for Christmas, but really, if you give it away, she'll never know.
unless you give it back to her as a gift, then she might realize that.
She gave it to you. It was thoughtful. She was thinking about you, but the truth is, she has completely forgotten she even gave it to you, Danny. So, you have to be a little more specific with people when they're hanging on to things.
Joe, I think what she's saying is she's kind of pushy. I think that's what it is. She pushes them past the comfort zone. Do you think that's what the deal is?
Well, I think,
do.
Yeah, I think you almost have to, right, Kandy? Because
I do it. Hey, Joe, I'm gentle.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I bet you are. Because if they were able to do this themselves, they wouldn't have called you. So they obviously have some issue. Yeah. Now, when you go into a home, do you deal mostly with the wife or with the husband or with both of them? Because I suspect my wife is going to call in an organizer when I'm not home. I'm going to come home and the house is going to look great, but none of my stuff will be here.
I deal mostly with women, Joe. Okay. But most of the time, the husband has to be on board because I'm coming up in his personal space.
Yeah, but we don't see clutter, to tell you the truth. I mean, it just looks fine to us ordinarily.
True.
I can step right over it. It's not that big a deal.
Well, I'm sure that you have to make suggestions on maybe an additional shelf here or there, maybe some additional hooks, maybe even go as far as some additional lighting in some areas so that the finished result of that particular project has all of the elements of success.
It's so funny, Danny, that you mentioned additional lighting. We actually just did this huge walk-in closet space, heated and cooled, and the first thing we did, my team member and I, is we got a step ladder and we changed out the lighting ourselves. We didn't even wait.
Yeah.
It was just so dark in there, and we said, you know what, if we can just put some good light bulbs in here, we can change this place.
That's great, because people probably don't think of that. I mean, they don't think of it in the kitchen, which is surprising, but certainly in a closet space. And many homes have closets large enough, and now that everything's LED, I can't imagine it probably increased the light output by 50 or 60% without installing any additional light fixtures, which of course would be much more work. I can't imagine a homeowner wouldn't walk in and be completely surprised, Kandy, by just putting in new light bulbs, right?
Yes. And yes, sometimes they do need more shelving.
And what is the hardest thing for people to store in their closet? Would it be like shoes? Would it be hanging items? I mean, what is the most, at least for you, the most challenging item to find a spot for this, not only to store, but store so it's readily accessible, not hidden away somewhere?
Good question. Well, if we're working in the kitchen, people have so many appliances that they never use.
The countertop appliances.
Big appliances. And so finding a space in a kitchen, a cabinet that is actually tall enough to put a KitchenAid mixer in, that's a dilemma. And then I guess if I'm in a bedroom closet, we just have too many shoes. Shoes for days.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the key elements on any organization of any part of the home, of course, are the containers. Of course, Joe and I were kidding around about what different people call them. We've heard them called totes, bins, containers, everything like that. What do you commonly call them?
I call them bins.
Okay, bins.
Bins,
All right,
okay.
so what are the right, I assume those that are see-through are the better ones so that you can get a glimpse of what's in there. Still, I know the labeling's very important, but I assume the transparent ones are the best.
It's a personal preference, Danny, but I prefer the transparent ones because I'll tell you, if you can't see what's in the container, you will forget what's in the container, and out of sight, out of mind.
Right, exactly. Well, certainly this is a great time of the year to start getting your life organized. Like I say, Kandy, it makes me feel it's one of my favorite things. And with me soon to be moving from my house I've lived in for 29 years, I'll have a dumpster backed up to my house there pretty soon. But if you want to find out a few more things on helping you get organized, you can go to orderyourspaces.com. That's Kandy's site, and a lot of information there that can help you have the most organized house on the block. And that's saying a lot. And keep in mind, you can donate a lot of these things instead of just throwing them away. There's a lot of people out there that are really in need of a lot of things that you may be discarding. What a great way to pass that along for someone else to be able to use. Kandy, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm having some extra fun today. I feel so good that it's a brand new year. 2020 is here, and I just have all kinds. You know, guys, I have lists.
Right.
I've got lists. I've got lists for you guys I haven't given you yet. Especially
Thank you.
one
That's
for
the best gift.
Yeah,
Keep the list to yourself.
And what helps me with putting these lists together is both Marla, your wife, Joe, and Barb, Dennis's wife, both know they can call me anytime and say, if you put it on a list, they'll get it done. My list has been on the refrigerator all year long, and they just won't get things done. So I had a little help putting my list together, so I'll provide those to you. I wanted to provide them to you at the end of the show, not the start of the show, so that you know, in case you have a bad reaction. So,
Well, I have no trouble with Marla sending lists to you. As long as she's not sending them to me, that's fine.
Okay, folks, right now it's time for our simple solution. What do you have, Joe?
All right, Danny, here's a quick and easy way to silence a squeaky door hinge. Now, there's lots of ways people try, and it doesn't always work. And I tell you, one thing you don't want to do is just open up the door and start squeezing in a bunch of oil or spraying in some silicone, because although it might silence it for that 1 second or two, but it's not going to solve the problem. So here's what you need to do. It only takes maybe 3 or 4 minutes, but it's worth the time. Close the door, then use a hammer and a nail set or similar tool to tap out the pin in the offending hinge, the one that's squeaking. Then take the pin out, wipe it really clean, remove any grease or grime with a cloth, scrape off any caked on paint. Sometimes people paint hinges for some reason, and that's not good. So take off all that paint. And then what you want to do is get some 120 grit sandpaper and buff that pin to as shiny a surface as you can get, the shaft of the pin. You want it like sparkling, shiny, brand new. And if you feel any burrs or rough spots, take a file and file those smooth. You want this pin as clean and smooth as possible. And then what you can do is take some machine oil, put one thin little bead. You don't want it dripping, soaking. You want one thin little bead of machine oil on the shaft, along the length of the shaft. Tap it back in, and that should do it. Open and close the door a couple times and see if that one might now be quiet, and maybe you'll see another one that's squeaking. But I've done this several times, and it works just about every single time.
And it lasts a long time, too, I bet, Joe, instead of because I'll tell you what, you're exactly right with spraying a multi-purpose lubricant. Everybody knows the one I'm speaking of. And you just cannot do that, especially lock manufacturers will tell you, do not spray that multi-purpose lubricant inside a lock.
Never.
It gunks it up. It
attracts dust and dirt.
It attracts dust and dirt. It just will not. It may help for a little while, but in the long run, you're really causing harm. Graphite is the way to go, and you can buy a little tube of graphite, and it'll last you 30 years. I mean, it just goes on forever, and that's actually the way to really get any kind of moving part. And that's something. It's a new year. I'll tell you what. Go to the home center, get you several different kinds of lubricant that's available, dry lubricant, and some of the liquid of the lithium grease for your garage door, and spend an hour going around on anything that has moving parts and make it work just a little bit better. That's a great weekend project for this time of the year. And now it's time for our podcast question of the week. Please send us your question anytime by going to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Okay, here's an interesting one for you, Joe. Tara writes, my dog found a hand warmer and got the black powder inside the package all over our hardwood floors. The black powder stained the hardwood floors in a couple areas and also on our couch. We have washed and scrubbed the areas, but the stain is still there. What would you recommend using to clean these areas? Thank you, Robert and Tara. And by the way, the dog is just fine.
Okay. Well, we're glad to hear that. Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, certainly it depends on what type of couch there is there, but on the floors and trying to eliminate whatever this black powder is from the hardwood, what do you recommend?
Yeah, well, I've used those hand warmers when I've gone skiing, and you activate them by cracking them and rub them together, and I've never opened one up, so I'm not really sure what's in there, but I know how to remove black stains caused by from other sources, not hand warmers. And what you do is you use hydrogen peroxide, regular old straight hydrogen peroxide. You want to put it on a clean cotton cloth, dab it on the darks. And I would just test this, by the way. I wouldn't do the whole floor. I'd test in a couple of small spots, make sure it works. But dab it on there, let it dry overnight, and then just check it and see if it works. If you find that it has lightened some of the stains but not removed them completely, then you can just repeat it. Or the other trick is to take a cloth, soak it in hydrogen peroxide, cover the stain completely, put a piece of plastic on it so it doesn't evaporate so quickly, and then just leave it for an hour or two, and then check it. So that's what I would try, hydrogen peroxide.
Well, it seems odd, though, if it's a hardwood floor, so many times with stains like that, that's what puzzles you sometimes with, water glasses on furniture and so forth.
Yep.
If the pores of the wood is sealed, which it should be, and majority of the time it is, unless you have a waxed hardwood floor, which is not that common. It just seems like it would be strictly on the surface, and as long as you're using something that won't strip away the actual urethane that's on it, it should come right off. So that's a little puzzling that it would have that kind of stain power.
Yeah, I mean, if it's right near the door, maybe that stain, maybe the top coat finish, the varnish is worn off,
true. Mm-hmm.
And there's some bare wood. To get a dog running around, he might be scratching through it. I'm not sure. So that's why I would try the hydrogen peroxide. You don't want to have to refinish the whole floor, which of course would be another option.
Right, absolutely. Tara, I hope that helps you with that little dilemma, and glad the dog is okay. That's very, very important. And we, again, encourage you to send us a question anytime. todayshomeowner.com/podcast. And again, we really appreciate, got several more 5-star reviews this week, and that really means a lot to us. Keep those great reviews coming in, and if we can answer any question for you, any comment, any thought that you may have, share those with us as well. And that's todayshomeowner.com/podcast. I'm Danny Lipford along with Joe Truini. Thanks so much for being with us on this podcast, and we'll see you soon.